Alright, so in this video we're going to talk about how to create this plasma canister in 3ds Max and Substance Painter. So we are starting off with something simple such as a cylinder, and going to set the number of sides. As you can see, feel free to add any number of sides that you feel comfortable with or feel like it is going to be the best. But usually it is going to be over 20, something like 30 or 40 depending on what you need. Also depending on the size. As you can see here, I'm extruding the edges by holding shift all the time, which is a fast way to add polygons in any kind of model you are creating inside 3ds Max. Also, as you can see, we are creating the overall shape and silhouette. Of the model, and this is gonna be something easy to work with because this is the stuff that we usually do all the time, so it is not gonna be that big of a deal. Also, the Edible Poly is contains everything. The Edible Poly modifier contains everything you need, and as you can see right now, we are gonna separate this section because we want to separate, since keeping everything connected is sometimes not that good of an idea. Also here, this section, the separated section, is gonna represent a lid or an opening for this plasma canister or barrel, whatever you want to call it, and change the pivot if necessary using the pivot modifier, using the pivot parameters up in that section near the modifier stacks. As you can see here, we are just using the things, doing the same things we used to do, which is by holding shift all the time, we are able to extrude the edges until we get something that we like. Also, you can change the material if you feel like it is necessary. As you can see, we selected a set of polygons here in order to extrude them. This time we're going to extrude it negatively, which means to the inside. Also, we're going to add other details as we go. For example, here we're going to select all these polygons, and in order to select polygons from one vertex or from one vertex, you need to select that vertex and keep holding Control, then select polygons to switch vertex selection to polygon selection. And using one vertex or from one vertex, you need to select that vertex and keep holding Control, then select polygons to switch vertex selection to polygon selection. And using Inset here, we are able to create a kind of a quick way to create another ring of edges around a section that we wanted to create it around. And as you can see, we are using the chamfer modifier in order to be able to create a smoothness effect in that section that we just extruded right now. Also, we want to change how this looks here by selecting the polygons and some edges here, and kind of create something special around this section, because it is always easy to keep things flat and interesting and kind of standard, but if you want to spice it up a little bit, help you to be able to think on your feet and be able to react to the changes you're doing, and seeing what you like and what you don't like is gonna be a quick way to identify the things that are gonna work better for you. Also, you can follow the reference image that you can see if you have one. Alright, so it seems like I accidentally scaled things in the wrong direction, and I recreated that real quick. And right now we're going to use the Inset tool in order to be able to select that section that you can see here, and we want to extrude this in order to create a certain effect that we want. We want to extrude this negatively to the inside because this is how things go in this section. Also, we can change this anytime we want. Also, we can change this anytime we want using the tools we have. Also here, I'm gonna create a line or an arc in this section, or in this case, because this way we are able to generate geometry from shapes. And the good thing about this is that using shapes is gonna be easy to control and work with. And when we actually have something that we feel comfortable with and confident that this is what we want, we can convert it later to a geometry that we can work with later on. Okay, so I'm gonna put this arc in its position that it is meant to be in, and we're gonna render the geometry in the viewport by checking that option right there, and you can change the radius and the thickness or whatever to be able to see it and where it is gonna be. Also, we can refine option in order to be able to add a few other vertices or points to be able to control how the arc or the shape looks like, which is very important often, since generally speaking, we want to tweak and add a few things here and there if necessary. It's not going to be always the case, but it is having the ability to control what you're doing is going to be always a nice thing to have. Alright, so after we are done converting this to editable poly, is going to be a necessity at this point. And right now, delete that half and apply the symmetry modifier to be able to see the result taking place on the other side. Okay, so you can, in this corner here, you can chamfer it or add few edges around it. Okay, so you can, in this corner here, you can chamfer it or add few edges around it, but I would say it is not going to be that necessary because, first of all, this piece here is going to be super small and it is probably not going to be noticed. Second of all, it is looking nice as it is, so there is no need to do any of this stuff. So we are good at this point. Alright, we're gonna take a look at what we are gonna need next, which is adding that line in between in order to be able to work on one half while maintaining the same result on the bottom half. Also, we can do other things. For example, we're looking for. Usually extruding out is gonna be easier than extruding in, because extruding out is gonna kind of, using this technique, we're gonna be able to avoid certain headaches that come with unclean and difficult geometry. So as you can see, we're gonna delete these parts here, and as you can see, finding quick ways to select geometry, polygons and stuff is gonna help you a lot to work faster and stuff. And this comes with time and experience, of course. You don't have to be an expert right away. Alright, so we just deselected, or we just detached this these polygons here because we want this section to be separated. We want it to be separate from the body of the barrel or the this plasma canister or whatever. And of course, convert it to editable poly and start modifying the position of the vertices, whatever. And of course, convert it to editable poly and start modifying the position of the vertices. Okay, so right now we're going to add a few segments. As you can see, this is very important because we want to add certain details on the side. This does not necessarily mean that these details are gonna make it to the final product, but they're gonna be part of the high poly version only, and later on, using a technique that we always use called baking, we're gonna be able to transfer the details from the high poly to the low poly using Substance Painter. We can do it in 3ds Max, but Substance is way better and faster and everything. And we're gonna select all these polygons that you can see here. One by one, we can use certain techniques to do this, but sometimes I enjoy selecting gonna be super difficult to do or to work on. Okay, so the first one was actually a test to see if it is gonna work or not, and right now we're gonna do it. So we're gonna chamfer these edges in order to create that smoothness or this smoothness on the side, and as you can see, it is looking nice so far. It is looking good. Okay, you can copy this as an instance to the other side, or mirror it or whatever, or use the symmetry modifier if you want to. It is gonna be, just make sure that the result is gonna be the same, and you're gonna be able to make sure that you're gonna be able to get a good looking result. Also, right now I'm gonna start adding some details on the side. This is you can follow the reference image, and you can get a close result to what you are seeing right now, but it does not necessarily have to be perfect by any means. Alright, so right now we are connecting certain vertices together using the connect tool in the edit poly, and I'm trying to count here how this is gonna turn out to be, because it is gonna be unfortunate if you actually accidentally make some mistakes during the process of making these kind of stuff, because first of all it's gonna look like something is wrong with it, and going back and fixing this stuff is gonna take a little bit of time, especially if you discover that you made a mistake deep in the process of creating this game ready model, which is why it is very important to make sure that you're on the right path early on. Okay, we just connected these edges together, and right now we are going to be able to extrude our polygons. So this is basically a process of determining where the polygons that we're going to extrude are going to be, and it is a process of cutting the surface, so we are going to be able to extrude our polygons easily. Okay, so we just deleted that half because it is not necessarily needed to work with all the repetitive patterns that we have on our model. So we're gonna keep only a quarter of it, and we're gonna work with that. And using the symmetry modifiers, we are gonna be able to bring it to the whole. Okay, I just decided that it is not gonna be looking that great if we kept it that way, the way it was before. So I just changed a few things because this way it's gonna look way better. Okay, So right now, of these polygons, make sure you don't accidentally select anything that is not going to be included in the process. And yeah, all right, it is looking good. And make sure that you don't extrude it so much, because this is just kind of something on the surface, few millimeters or something close to 5 millimeters or something. And we're going to delete these polygons here because the symmetry modifier needs to work properly, since if we don't delete it, the symmetry modifier will not work properly, because those polygons will be in the way. Of course, here we're gonna copy this polygon here, because it is a quick way to work or create the next piece that is gonna be positioned or aligned perfectly on the surface we're gonna work on. And second of all, is gonna be easy. And second of all, is gonna be easier and is gonna take less work. So sometimes we want to do things faster and smarter in order to be able to complete our work easily. So we are gonna work on this small piece here. We are gonna adjust it a little bit, and what we're gonna do next is gonna be the most interesting part. So we're gonna connect these edges or these vertices together, and we're gonna create a capsule on top of this surface, and we're gonna try to align it somehow nicely, and we're gonna rotate it a little bit because it's gonna be rotated around or about 45 degrees. And of course, we don't need the whole capsule, we just need Alright, make sure to change the number of sides as you wish, because we don't want it to be super complicated or something like that. Alright, this is gonna be rotated around, I don't know, maybe like 60 degrees, it's not gonna be 45. We want it to look a certain way, because we are going to create a pattern here of series or many copies of this thing, and using the normal modifier is going to allow us to flip the normals in this, because this is actually going to be a floating geometry. And why the normals are very important, because they are important because we're not going to be able to do the baking properly if the normals are not going to. They are important because we're not going to be able to do the baking properly if the normals are not going to be facing the right direction. So as you can see, we're going to extrude the polygons a little bit, and using the normals modifier, we're gonna be able to flip the normals accordingly, and we need them to be facing us when we look at the model, not the other way around. Because this is how it works, and if you don't do this, it is not gonna work properly. So we're gonna copy this piece several times, and we're gonna make sure that everything here is looking good. You can do this actually, techniques that allow you to do this, to modify the normal map and stuff, and add certain things using alphas and some techniques and stuff. But this way, I think we're gonna have more control over it, even though it seems like it is taking longer. But it is actually nice to learn to work with both ways. I personally like to bake everything I like the details to be brought from the high poly itself, because I feel like it is, I don't know, I like to work this way, even though sometimes, of course, generating these things in Substance Painter is gonna be way better, easier, and faster, and everything. All right, so we're gonna group this because we're gonna be able to rotate it perfectly without any problem with the axis and stuff. All right, change the pivot, center it around the barrel, and rotate it about how many degrees you need. Okay, so the model is looking nice already, and we're making progress, and this is a good thing. And here we are gonna do a few minor changes that are not changing how our model look like. So I actually know what's gonna happen in the future, and this is actually not gonna make it into the final model. This thing we copied from the top, so you can just not copy it, and you're gonna be good. Also, here we are gonna try to add few final things on the high poly model, and these things are gonna be screws or bolts or whatever. So these are gonna be we're gonna use spheres or hemispheres. We're gonna put them or locate them around all over the model in order to add certain look to it and details that are gonna make it look way better and more realistic. Alright, we're gonna try actually to position them around the corners, which is the best way to put screws and bolts and stuff. Alright, so now we are copying these. Alright, we're gonna copy these sets of screws all over again. And actually this way our model is looking way better than it was before. So for now we're gonna go to this way our model is looking way better than it was before. So for now we're gonna go to create the actual high poly model. We're gonna make sure that everything is gonna look even better, but first we're gonna create layers for our low poly and our high poly models. So we're gonna give them a few names, create layers. This way we're gonna be able to work with the two versions of our model properly, because things are gonna be organized and everything, and when we are ready to export our model to Substance Painter, we are gonna face less problems because everything is gonna be organized, named properly, and identically on top of each other. So as we said, right now we're going to work on the actual high poly. Since we are using the Swift loop, we're going to add the supporting edges. There are multiple ways of doing this. You can use chamfering tools, chamfering modifiers and stuff to do this quickly, but this way is better in terms of explaining stuff to people who want to do these kind of things. Also, is going to be more organized, and the result is going to be guaranteed that it is going to look the way we want it to. So, in those terms, we are winning. But the other ways are better in certain times, especially if you are working on your own personal projects that have, I don't know, a few hundred thousand polygons of vertices. It is going to be super time consuming to do it this way. So sometimes we're going to be able, sometimes we want to do things depending on what our project, or depending on what the thing that we are doing demands. Okay, so it is going to be very simple. The process of creating these supporting edges is very basic. Just add the edges where you see corners and where you see a need, generally speaking, to reinforce geometry. So this process is actually repetitive, and it is kind of self-explanatory. Okay, this is looking better actually, and the more we do this, we're gonna discover a few mistakes or a few things we did wrong. And to test the result, you're gonna have to use the smoothie modifier, such as Turbo Smooth, to be able to see how the final result is gonna look like. And sometimes there are gonna be a few things that don't look that great, so you're gonna have to go there and fix them as you move forward and as you make progress. And fix them as you move forward and as you make progress. Also, sometimes there are some polygons we don't need, especially in the back. Especially in the back of some pieces where surfaces are not going to be visible. So if you don't remove them, it's going to be a little bit. It's not going to look that great, but it's not going to actually affect it that much either. Really to be supported, but if you do it, it's gonna make it look even better, which is a good thing. Alright, so we're gonna have to remove certain polygons here. And applying the Turbo Smooth modifier, we can see that it is not looking that great. So we're gonna have to do a few things. And for now, we're gonna have to, doing this manually is gonna take a long time. So we better think of something that is gonna make this happen faster. And this way we are gonna select all the polygons on the side and we're gonna inset. This is gonna allow us to kind of tighten the surface on the sides, and this seems like it is working properly. All right. So pretty much the high poly model is finished. So let's see, let's look around and let's work on other things. For example, here on the top, you're gonna have to do a little bit of work, even though it's not that complicated, but it is gonna take it is gonna be a little bit time consuming compared to the other places we worked on, especially when we have triangles and stuff. So we're gonna see how this is gonna work. So where we have cylindrical areas and stuff, this is gonna be super fast, easy to do, not very problematic at all. And sometimes small corners and hidden places need to be supported, sometimes not, depending on how you feel about that certain or particular place. It depends. It depends highly on the situation. We're gonna use the cut tool in order to support few places manually, which is usually something we need to do. As I said, triangles, where you see triangles, it means that things need manual work in order to work on them properly. Okay, testing using the smoothing modifier, it seems like, or the Turbo Smooth, seems like it is going well, but we need to work on a few things and take a look. Also, this part here, as I said, down there probably is not going to be necessary. So the last thing we need to do here is to support this section, cut few, and ready to go. Alright, so this is it for this part. I hope you found this tutorial useful, and if you have something to say in the comments section, please let me know. Also, you can support us on Patreon if you do, and I'll see you in the next part. Thanks. Thanks.